Welcome to a quiet corner of the night. Here we slow down. We wander through science, not as a list of facts, but as a journey, a gentle walk through time, space, and the stories written in the world around us. Tonight, we return to an ancient Earth, a world where giants once walked, where forests trembled under the weight of footsteps so heavy they echoed through millions of years. We will listen for the voices of the dinosaurs, not roaring, but whispering through the stones, the fossils, the feathers that still carry their memory. As you settle in, I invite you to let your mind drift with me, past the noise of the day, into a softer, deeper place where curiosity feels like starlight, calm, unhurried, infinite. If you find comfort in these slow explorations, if these stories help you wonder, rest, or dream, I'd be grateful if you'd share that journey. You can like this video so it finds its way to others seeking the same quiet. You can share it with someone who might need a moment of peace. You can leave a comment telling me where in the world you're listening from. I love knowing how far these echoes travel. And if you subscribe, you'll be here with us next time, when the night opens again and the next story begins. Now breathe. Feel the weight of the day ease from your shoulders, and let's step together into the age of dinosaurs. Before dinosaurs, the earth is young yet ancient. The air smells of damp forests, and the seas whisper against newborn continents. You step into a world of giant ferns, dragonflies with wings like stained glass, and early reptiles testing their steps on land. Time itself feels slow, and every heartbeat echoes through millions of years. In the hush of prehistory, something is stirring. The stage is being set. You close your eyes and step backwards. Not in meters, not in years, but in millions upon millions of years. The world you leave behind fades into a soft blur, and another world emerges, green, humid, and heavy with breath. The air smells of wet earth and resin. The ground is soft beneath your feet, carpeted with moss and thick ferns whose leaves arch like ancient hands. There is no bird song yet, no rustle of mammal fur in the undergrowth. Instead, the forest hums with the sound of insects, wings, like paper, bodies glistening with dew, and the slow creak of tree trunks leaning toward the light. Above you, the sky is a gentler shade of blue, paler than the one you know. The continents are not in the shapes you've learned from maps. They are pieces of a drifting puzzle, sliding and pressing against one another, forming mountains in slow motion. You are standing in the late Permian period, more than 250 million years before your own time. This is an Earth, both young and old. Young in the sense that so much of life's grand story is still ahead. Old in the sense that it has already seen oceans rise and fall, climates swing from icy cold to blistering heat, and entire groups of creatures appear and vanish. The rock beneath your feet holds those memories, pressed into layers as thin as the pages of a book. The trees here are ancient kinds you will never see in your own age, tall, spore-bearing giants with trunks ridged like armor. Their roots twist and coil through the damp soil, gripping the land as if to keep it from slipping back into the sea. You pause to listen. Somewhere in the canopy, the slow beat of wings stirs the warm air. A dragonfly passes overhead, but this is no fragile, hand-sized creature from your garden. Its wingspan is longer than your forearm, shimmering gold and green in the sun. It hovers for a moment, the muscles in its thorax humming, before darting off toward the glimmer of water. In the shallows of that water, strange shapes move. Their bodies are wide and flat, tails undulating like ribbons. They are amphibians, not quite fish, not quite fully land creatures, with eyes that blink slowly above the surface. Some are the size of your palm. Others could stretch from your feet to your chest. They rest in the warm shallows, waiting for prey to pass, their skin modeled to match the muddy bottom dot beyond them. In the deeper pools, you glimpse the armored glint of early reptiles. They are small, no larger than a rabbit, but their limbs move with a confidence that says, land is not just a place to visit. It is a place to stay. These creatures will be the ancestors of lineages that stretch into the distant future, some leading toward dinosaurs, others toward crocodiles, turtles, and birds. The sun here feels different, softer, yet warmer. It hangs lower in the sky, casting a gold that seems to seep into everything it touches. The light plays in the mist, creating halos around leaves and droplets. You breathe in, and the air is heavy with moisture, carrying the scent of decay and new growth intertwined. It is a peaceful world, but not a static one. The earth is restless beneath its skin. Far to the south, deep under the crust, molten rock shifts and churns. The continents, still gathered into a single vast landmass called Pangaea, are being stretched and strained. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, cracks will open, seas will pour in, and lands will drift apart. These movements will shape where creatures live, how climates shift, and who survives. You walk through the forest, brushing past fronds taller than yourself. Some of the plants here reproduce not by seeds, but by releasing clouds of microscopic spores into the air. When you pass through a shaft of sunlight, you see the golden dust swirl around you, glowing like tiny galaxies. Everywhere, life is experimenting. On a fallen log, a millipede as long as your forearm moves slowly, antennae tapping at the bark. In the distance, something splashes, perhaps a reptile hunting fish or a fish leaping to escape. Life here is not yet dominated by any single kind of animal. The world is still a stage where many players share the light. Yet, if you listen closely, there is an undercurrent to this quiet, a sense of preparation, as though the earth itself is holding its breath, waiting for the arrival of something new. This sense is sharpened by the memory of what came just before. Only a short time ago, in geological terms, the greatest mass extinction the planet has ever known swept across land and sea. More than 90% of marine species vanished. Forests thinned, the air cooled, then warmed again. Many creatures you would have seen here before are gone forever, leaving space, an empty stage for new forms to take root. You kneel by a stream, running your fingers through water that feels warm and alive. Tiny silver fish dart away, their bodies flashing like polished metal. You pick up a smooth stone and see the faint outline of a shell pressed into its surface, the fossil of something that lived and died long before even this world you're standing in. Time stacks itself in layers, each one holding whispers from the one below. As you follow the stream, it leads you into an open clearing. Here, the ground is drier, the plants lower, and the air is filled with the buzzing of cicada-like insects. You watch as one lands on a stem, its body glistening with iridescence. Its song is not for you. It is for others of its kind, hidden in the green. On the far side of the clearing, movement catches your eye. A reptile, long-bodied and sleek, slips between the shadows. It pauses, head raised, tasting the air with a flick of its tongue. Its legs are placed beneath its body, rather than sprawling to the side like a lizard's. A small but important shift. This posture will one day allow its descendants to run faster, to grow larger, to hunt in new ways. For now, it is simply surviving, hunting smaller reptiles and insects, avoiding the jaws of bigger hunters. The forest darkens slightly as clouds gather above. A low rumble of thunder passes through the air, so deep you feel it in your chest. Rain begins to fall, warm and heavy, pattering on leaves with a rhythm that feels older than language. In minutes, the air grows even thicker, the forest gleaming as droplets cling to every surface. You find shelter under the broad fronds of a giant fern, watching the way rain runs in thin rivulets down the stems. Small creatures take cover too. An amphibian presses itself into the mud. A beetle clings under the curve of a leaf. The world is hushed, except for the steady heartbeat of the rain. As quickly as it began, the storm passed. The sun returns, slanting low through the steam, rising from the ground. The air smells cleaner, yet richer, as if the rain has pulled new scents from the earth. You notice tracks in the softened soil, three-toed prints, smaller than your hand, leading from the water's edge into the undergrowth. They belong to a small, agile reptile, perhaps an early relative of the archosaurs, the group that will one day include crocodiles, pterosaurs, and dinosaurs. You follow the tracks a short distance, but they vanish into the tangle of roots and leaves, even here. In this time before the dinosaurs, the threads of their story are already being woven. Muscles, bones, and instincts are being tested in the crucible of survival. The shapes that will define the Mesozoic are stirring quietly, waiting for their cue to step into the light. You sit on a smooth rock at the edge of the clearing, letting your gaze wander across the forest. The shadows are long now, and the air cools with the approach of night. Fireflies, or something very much like them, begin to glow, their lights blinking in slow, hypnotic patterns. Somewhere beyond the horizon, the first true dinosaurs are still millions of years away, but the world is readying itself. The plants that will feed them are taking root. The insects that will pollinate their flowers are evolving their wings. The continents that will cradle their footsteps are slowly drifting into place. You feel a strange blend of stillness and anticipation, as though you are standing in the final breaths of a chapter, knowing that the next page is about to turn. And in that turning, something small, something almost overlooked, will take its first step into history. The Triassic dawn brings strange, graceful creatures, some with long necks like living branches, others no larger than a bird. The first dinosaurs are small, quick, and unassuming, blending into a tapestry of crocodile-like hunters and ancient amphibians. You feel the earth warming under a deep red sky as tectonic plates drift and rivers carve the land. Life is beginning to experiment with forms that will shape the next 165 million years. The night lifts slowly over the Triassic world. The first light is not the soft blue you know, but a deep, warm red that spills across the horizon like molten metal cooling into shape. The sun hangs lower, its light filtered through an atmosphere rich in dust and moisture. Shadows stretch long over a land that is still raw, still reshaping itself after the great dying of the Permian. You stand on a high ridge, looking out over a plain where rivers weave silver threads through green and ochre. The air is dry, warmer than the age before, carrying the faint tang of minerals from distant volcanoes. Pangaea, the great single continent, sprawls beneath your feet, vast enough to carry every climate from burning desert to lush forest within its borders. Below, life is returning. It is not yet the lush abundance of the Jurassic to come. The green here is patchy, stitched together from low shrubs, hardy conifers, and ferns that huddle near streams. Open spaces are common, spaces where creatures must cross exposed ground. Under the watching eyes of hunters. And there are hunters here. You see one now, moving along the edge of the river. Its body is low, its tail a counterweight, its head held forward like an arrow in flight. It is not a dinosaur, but a distant cousin, an early archosaur, with long jaws lined and teeth made for gripping. It slides into the shallows with barely a ripple, waiting for fish to come close. Life in the Triassic is an intricate mosaic. Mammal-like reptiles, holdovers from the Permian, still walk the land, their sprawling gaits slow but steady. Crocodile-lined archosaurs dominate the role of apex predators. Small amphibians, survivors of harsher times, cluster in damp pockets, their calls rising in the evening air dot. And here, almost overlooked, are the first dinosaurs. They are not the thunder-limbed giants you may imagine. They are small, some no larger than a dog, and light-footed, built for speed rather than strength. Their bones are hollow, their bodies lean. They are experimentations in form, fine-tuned, by survival in a world where larger predators claim the center stage. You step carefully through the low brush, the ground warm beneath your feet. The soil is streaked with minerals, painted in reds and browns by iron and clay. A lizard scurries past, its body flashing in the light before vanishing into a crack in the earth. From the cover of a fallen log, you watch a pair of small dinosaurs approach the riverbank. Their movements are quick, but deliberate, their heads darting as they scan for insects or small vertebrates to catch. They are bipedal, walking on two legs, their tails stiff for balance. You notice the way their legs are positioned beneath their bodies, allowing them to move with efficiency and speed. This is a shift in posture that will define the dinosaur's rise. They pause, sensing something in the water. A ripple disturbs the surface. The archosaur from earlier lunges, its jaws snapping shut around one of the small dinosaurs. The other darts away, vanishing into the brush. It is a reminder that here, survival is never guaranteed, and the line between hunter and hunted is drawn fresh each day. The heat grows as the sun climbs higher. You travel along the river, its winding course leading you into a different landscape. Here, rocky outcrops break the horizon, their surfaces marked with cracks and grooves from ancient erosion. Pools of water collect in the hollows, drawing life to drink. Near one such pool, you spot a creature unlike any you've seen before. A long-necked reptile with a body no larger than a house cat. Its neck is delicate and flexible, reaching into the water to snatch tiny fish. This is a Tanystropheus, an odd relic of the Triassic seas, capable of living both in water and on land. Its neck makes up more than half its length, and yet it moves with slow precision, as though each motion is part of a careful design. The Triassic is an age of strange experiments. In the absence of dominating giants, evolution plays with forms, elongating necks, stretching limbs, shaping skulls into an array of jaws and beaks. Some of these forms will vanish without descendants, their stories ending in the next shift of climate. Others will leave long shadows into the future. By midday, the land shimmers with heat. The smell of resin drifts from the conifers, and the air trembles with the buzz of insects. You rest in the thin shade of a tree, its needles casting a lacy pattern on the ground. From here, you can see the distant haze of mountains. Their peaks are sharp, young, still rising under the force of colliding plates. You imagine how this world feels to the creatures that live in it. Vast, unpredictable, alive with opportunity and danger. For the first dinosaurs, every adaptation matters. Lightweight bones help them run faster. Three-toed feet give them better grip on uneven ground. Keen eyesight and quick reflexes turn survival from a gamble into a skill. Toward evening, the heat begins to soften. You walk through a low valley where shallow lakes reflect the changing sky. The air is cooler here, carrying the scent of wet earth. At the water's edge, you watch as a group of small dinosaurs moves together, their bodies silhouetted against the orange light. They are not hunting, but foraging for plants and insects, which they call soft and bird-like. One pauses, lifting its head toward the horizon. In that moment, you see it, the hint of something to come. The shape of the neck, the curve of the hip, the restless alertness in its gaze. These are the seeds of the giants that will one day walk the earth. The sun dips lower, and the shadows grow long across the plain. Bats have not yet taken to the night sky, but small pterosaurs wheel above the river, their wings catching the last light. They are not dinosaurs, yet they share the same distant ancestry. The air seems filled with the quiet hum of new possibilities as darkness deepens. The calls of amphibians rise from the water, a slow rhythm that echoes across the land. The stars emerge, faint at first, then sharp and brilliant in the clear. Dry air. You lie back on a patch of warm ground, feeling the day's heat seep into your skin. Somewhere in the darkness, a small dinosaur moves through the brush, its footsteps barely more than a whisper. This is not yet their age, but it is their beginning. In the spaces between rivers and forests, in the safety of shadows, the first. True dinosaurs are testing what it means to survive. Their forms are small, their presence subtle, but their future will be vast. And as you drift toward sleep under the Triassic sky, you can almost hear the faint echo of what will come next. Footsteps heavier, necks longer, bodies vast enough to shade the ground. In the lush forests of the Jurassic, dinosaurs grow to sizes never before seen. Towering sauropods sway like walking mountains, their necks tracing arcs through warm air scented with conifer resin. You hear the soft rustle of leaves against ancient skin, the slow grinding of teeth on foliage. Even the smallest creatures here feel ancient and eternal. You begin to sense that time is not a line, but a vast, circling ocean. The air is warm here, thick with the scent of pine resin and damp earth. You step softly, feeling the cushion of fallen needles under your feet, their brown layers holding years of seasons you will never see. The forest canopy rises above you like the ceiling of a living cathedral, shafts of sunlight piercing through to touch the ferns and cycads below. This is the Jurassic, a chapter of Earth's history written in deep greens and long shadows. The Triasic's patchwork of open plains has given way to forests that seem endless, stretching over hills and valleys. Rivers move slow and wide, bending through this green world with the patience of 1,000,000 years. And here, within this vastness, the giants laugh. You hear them before you see them, a low, rhythmic sound, almost too deep to be called a footstep. It is the earth shifting under weight so great that the ground seems to hold its breath. A shape emerges between the trees, first a neck, rising higher than the canopy itself, swaying gently as it reaches for a crown of fresh leaves. The body follows, massive and steady, each limb the size of a tree trunk, a sauropod. It moves with the calm certainty of something that has never had reason to rush. Its skin is the color of wet stone, patterned with shadows from the branches above. Each step presses into the earth, leaving impressions that will harden into fossils millions of years from now. You watch as it tears a mouthful of leaves, chewing slowly, the movement of its jaw a metronome to the forest's stillness. Around it, smaller sauropods move, younger, perhaps, or different species entirely. Some graze from lower branches. Others stretch their necks upward in arcs of improbable grace. They move together, their tails swinging in slow unison, as if the whole herd is breathing in time. The giant size is not a mistake, not a curiosity. It is the result of deep evolutionary math, long necks to reach the richest leaves, massive stomachs to process the endless flow of plants, hollow bones to make such size possible. Their hearts are strong enough to pump blood all the way to a head held meters above the ground. You imagine the pulse within, steady and powerful, a quiet drumbeat of survival. The forest is alive with more than just the giants. In the filtered light, you catch glimpses of smaller dinosaurs moving between tree trunks, ornithopods grazing in the shadows, their heads bobbing as they crop low plants. A flash of movement draws your eye to a tree limb, or an early bird-like creature flutters, its feathers catching the light like spun gold. It is not a songbird. Those have not yet come, but its calls are sharp, its movements quick, testing the air for flight's possibilities. Insects hum in the warm stillness, their bodies tracing small, invisible maps between flowers. Yes, flowers. They are still newcomers here, delicate in this green age of conifers and ferns. Their colors are muted compared to the blooms you know, but they are bold enough to catch the eyes of pollinators. Somewhere in the undergrowth, the first bees are. Learning the language of petals. The ground beneath your feet dips toward a slow-moving river. The water is tea-colored from the tannins of fallen leaves, its surface broken now and then by the ripple of fish or the quick dart of a turtle. The far bank, a group of stegosaurs feeds, their backs lined with tall plates that rise and fall like the spine of a living fortress. Their tails, tipped with sharp spikes, sway gently as they move, a silent reminder that even in this peaceful scene, defenses are always ready. You stand quietly, letting the sounds of the Jurassic fold around you, the rustle of leaves under massive jaws, the faint slap of a tail through ferns, the far-off call of a pterosaur gliding above the canopy. The air is thick enough to taste resin, warm rain, and the faint mineral tong of the river. A breeze stirs the branches, carrying with it the sound of something else, a low bellow, deep and resonant, that seems to come from the ground itself. Another sauropod answers, the tone different but equally deep, a conversation in vibrations more than words. These are not hurried exchanges. They are slow, deliberate notes in a language as old as this green world. You walk further along the river, your steps quiet on the damp earth. The canopy parts ahead, opening into a wide meadow flooded with golden light. Here, the giants gather. A dozen sauropods stand in loose groups, feeding, resting, or simply watching the horizon. Their necks rise and fall like the masts of ancient ships, their shadows long across the grass. Even in this calm, you sense the invisible threads that tie predator and prey, plant and eater, water and wanderer. Somewhere beyond the trees, hunters move. You do not see them yet, but the smallest dinosaurs here glance toward the forest edge with wary eyes. A young sauropod passes close to you, its skin dappled with the sun's shifting patterns. Hear the slow grind of teeth on fibrous plants, the deep exhale from nostrils high on its head. Its size dwarfs you, and yet you feel no threat, only the quiet weight of its presence. The sun begins its slow descent, and the forest's colors deepen. The sauropods drift toward the trees again, seeking the safety of the cover as shadows lengthen. Pterosaurs return to roost, their wings folding tight against their bodies. In the gathering dusk, the air cools, and a thin mist begins to curl. Upward from the ground, you sit at the edge of the meadow, watching the last light catch on the plates of a distant stegosaur, turning them into silhouettes of fire. The herd's movement is slow but purposeful, a migration perhaps, or simply the nightly search for the richest feeding grounds. Somewhere out there, beyond your sight, another world is waking, one of sharper eyes and faster limbs, of silence, broken by the sudden rush of a chase. The giants you've walked among tonight are peaceful, but their world is never without shadow. And in the deepening darkness, you wonder, what shape will the hunters take when they come? The world hums with the tension of survival. Sleek predators stalk through ferns, eyes glinting with ancient instinct. Herds of plant eaters move in silent unity, listening for danger in the shifting shadows. Each footstep in the mud is a story, each bone a record written in calcium. You follow the trail of a predator through soft earth, wondering where the path will end out. You step into a forest that feels both alive and watchful. The air is heavy with the scent of damp leaves, and somewhere, far off, water trickles between stones. The canopy above filters the sunlight into long, thin shafts that sway and dance with the wind. Every sound here matters. The snap of a twig, the rustle of ferns, the quiet rhythm of your own breathing. This is a world where silence is never truly empty. It is full of listening. On the forest floor, the tracks tell the story before you even see the players. Three-toed prints, pressed deep into the mud, spaced far apart, each one edged with claws that curve like tiny sighs. These are not the footprints of a wanderer. They belong to a hunter, a predator that moves with purpose, placing each foot with care, conserving energy for the moment when stillness turns into a burst of speed. You follow. The prints weave between cycads and low conifers, then disappear into a shallow patch of sand. Here, the ground is marked instead by a drag, a faint, sweeping line where the tip of a long tail brushes against the earth. The hunter is near. Through the green haze of ferns, you catch sight of movement, not the gentle sway of plants in the wind, but the sudden, precise shift of muscle. A creature steps into the light, a theropod, not one of the giant, later predators that will one day roam the Cretaceous, but a lithe, almost delicate hunter, perhaps a Colophusis, its body slender, its bones light. Sunlight slides across its skin, revealing patterns like dappled shadow. Its head tilts, listening. It does not see you, for you are not here to be seen. You are only passing through, an unseen guest in a theater where every performer knows their role. The hunter moves again, slower now, lowering itself, its tail balancing, its forward lean. Ahead, among the ferns, something shifts. A small herd of Plateosaurus, plant-eaters, their necks swaying gently as they pull at fronds and leaves. Each step they take presses a wide, rounded footprint into the earth, far larger than your own foot could ever be. They seem calm, but their eyes, dark and deep as pools, flicker with awareness. Somewhere in the thick forest, danger always waits. The predator inches closer. You can feel the patience in its movements, the quiet mathematics of hunting, distance, wind, direction, the arc of a leap. These are calculations made not in numbers, but in instinct, honed over millions of years. You watch, and in the stillness, you understand something. Survival is not only about strength, it is about timing, about knowing when to move and when to wait. The hunter is close enough now that you can see its ribs expand with each breath. The Plateosaurus herd begins to shift, their steps aligning without words, each member mirroring the movements of the others. It is a language older than speech, a choreography of survival. A twig snaps, the herd freezes. The predator freezes. For a heartbeat, the entire forest holds its breath. And then, it happens. The hunter surges forward, legs pounding against the earth, claws slicing the air. The Plateosaurus scatter, their long tails whipping like living branches. Dust rises. Leaves tear from branches. The air fills with the sound of panic, deep, rhythmic thuds from massive feet, high, sharp cries from the hunter. You follow the chase, weaving between tree trunks, the forest blurring into streaks of green and brown. The hunter darts left, trying to isolate one from the group. The chosen prey stumbles on uneven ground, and in that faltering step lies the balance between life and death. But the Plateosaurus recovers, its powerful legs carrying it forward. The hunter lunges, misses, stumbles. The prey has slipped away into thicker brush. The forest slowly exhales. The predator stands still for a moment, chest heaving, eyes scanning the space where the herd vanished. There is no frustration here, no sense of failure, only the quiet understanding that this is how the world works. Another day, another chance. You watch as the hunter lifts its head to the wind, perhaps catching the scent of something else. It turns away, disappearing into shadow, leaving only the faint vibration of its passing in the air. The forest settles again. Insects resume their soft hum. Ferns sway gently, as if nothing had happened. But the ground remembers, the churned earth, the deep tracks, the small broken twig, all of it a record of the brief, fierce dance between hunter and hunted. You walk on, feeling the pulse of this place. Here, Survival is not a battle fought once. It is a rhythm, an endless exchange between those who eat and those who are eaten. The balance is not cruel. It is simply the way of life. Each predator feeds the next predator. Each death becomes life again in the soil, in the leaves, in the breath of the forest. Somewhere nearby, a smaller drama plays out. You pause to watch. In the shadow of a fallen log, a tiny mammal, no, larger than your hand, darts out to snatch an insect. Its fur bristles, ears twitching. For it, too, survival is constant. The insect struggles, then stills. The mammal eats quickly, nervously, before slipping back into safety. Even in the smallest lives, the same truth hums. To live, you must take. You begin to notice signs of life everywhere. Scratch marks on a tree where claws tested their sharpness. A half-eaten fern frond dropped in haste, the faint ammonia scent. Of animal droppings marking territory. These are not random traces. They are messages, each one part of the unspoken communication of the wild. As you walk, the forest opens into a wide floodplain. The air here is warmer, carrying the smell of sunlit water. Far in the distance, you see movement, not of a single animal, but of many. Herds gather where the river bends, drinking from the shallow edge. Some are long-necked giants, others small, beaked grazers. Among them move the shadows of predators, not attacking, but watching. This is a place where both sides come together. In uneasy truce, the river's edge is a shared need, and even danger waits while thirst is quenche. Above, the sky is alive with wings. Pterosaurs drift on the thermals, their shadows sliding silently over the ground. From up there, the lines between hunter and hunted blur. All are simply part of the same moving, breathing whole. You stand still, letting the scene wash over. You feel the deep connection between all things here. The threads that bind predator to prey, prey to plant, plant to soil, soil to rain. It is a cycle that has been spinning since the first spark of life, and will keep spinning long after. These creatures are gone. The sun begins to lower, painting the sky in layers of gold and rose. Shadows stretch across the ground. The hunters retreat into the forest. The grazers move towards safer ground, and the air cools with the promise of night. You turn to leave, but the faint sound of movement in the undergrowth draws your attention. Something is watching. Not a predator this time, something different. You catch only a glimpse. A shape with feathers, small but quick, its eyes bright and curious. It tilts its head as if deciding whether to follow. It feels like the future. Leaning in, whispering a question you don't yet understand. The sky belongs now to creatures born of dreams, pterosaurs drifting like sails, and the first true birds, feathers shimmering in sunlight. You watch a feather fall slowly to the ground, carrying within it the history of flight. In the air, danger and wonder mingle, for hunters lurk even in the clouds. The wind carries scents of salt water and blooming plants, hinting at changes to come. The sun is already high when you step into the Cretaceous morning. Light spills like warm honey across a world both familiar and strange, and you lift your eyes to where the air itself seems alive. The sky is a restless ocean here, not of water, but of wings. Great shadows pass over you, gliding with slow, deliberate grace, as though the air were thick enough to lean upon. Pterosaurs, some as small as swallows, others with wingspans wider than a small aircraft, drift above the tree line. There, shapes dark against the pale blue. They are not birds, though they wear the sky as comfortably as any gull or hawk of your own time. Some skim the surface of a shallow lagoon, their long jaws dipping into the water to snatch flashing silver. Others wheel higher, circling on columns of warm air that rise from the sunlit earth. You watch one in particular, a pteranodon, tilt its wings, catching an invisible current. Its head crest cuts a strange silhouette, a rudder in the wind. It is ancient, but it feels impossibly modern, as if you could still glimpse its reflection in today's seabirds. You sense that the memory of such creatures is written not just in fossils, but in every tern, every albatross, every gull that skims the waves in the present day. A shadow falls across the ground beside you, a different kind of wing. It beats, not glides. You turn your gaze to see a smaller creature dart from branch to branch, its feathers shimmering with iridescent greens and reds. It is not a pterosaur. This is something new. Archaeopteryx, perhaps, or one of its later cousins. A bird in the making. Feathers, light yet strong, ripple in the wind. They are not only for flight, but for warmth, for display, for communication. In each filament lies a story that began long before the sky was claimed, when these feathers were scales, when wings were grasping arms, when the dream of flight was still just a possibility written quietly in bone and muscle. You step closer, and it takes off. A sudden burst of movement, a heartbeat turned to air. Its wings flash once in sunlight before. It vanishes into the canopy, leaving only the faint tremor of disturbed leaves and the soft drift of a single feather. It spirals downward, slow as thought, turning in the breeze until it lands at your feet. When you pick it up, it feels almost weightless, and yet it holds millions of years within its structure. Hollow quills, interlocking barbs, microscopic hooks that keep each filament in place. Nature has been perfecting this design for eons far above. The wind carries other sounds. A long, hollow call echoes over the forest, deep and resonant, not the voice of a bird, but of a giant. You look to the horizon, where the treetops sway like waves before some unseen presence. It emerges slowly, a Quetzalcoatlus, larger than any living bird, its wings stretching the length of a small bus. It moves with the assurance of something that has no equal here. When it lands in a clearing, folding its vast wings like sails after a long voyage, the earth seems to pause. Even such kings of the sky must be careful. From the shadows at the forest's edge, a predator watches, not from the ground, but from above. You almost miss it at first, a speck circling far higher than the rest. But then it dives. It is a raptor, not the kind you've seen stalking. Prey on the forest floor, but one adapted to the air, feathers streaming like banners. Its talons reach, closing around something small and fluttering, a hatchling that had wandered too far from the nest. The air holds both silence and violence, as quick as the beat of a wing. The Cretaceous sky is not only a place of beauty, it is also a theater of survival. Every glide, every call, every shimmering feather is shaped by the need to endure. You see flocks of smaller birds gathering, weaving through the trees in tight, coordinated bursts, their movements like schools of fish. Safety lies in numbers. Overhead, a group of pterosaurs glides together toward the distant coastline. The sea, you realize, is still their anchor, their hunting ground, their place of rest. Many will roost on cliffs where the air rises in steady, invisible staircases of wind. You follow them. The forest thins, the sound of waves grows louder, and soon you stand on the edge of a warm, shallow sea. Its surface flashes with light, and, in the distance, a sandbar blooms with life, nests, eggs, resting wings. Some are guarded fiercely, with sharp beaks and hissing calls. Others lie exposed to the sun, abandoned or lost. Above, the air is a weaving tapestry of motion. Birds chasing insects, pterosaurs diving for fish, scavengers searching for whatever the tide leaves behind. The smell here is salt and resin, seaweed and crushed ferns. You breathe it in, feeling the connection between land and air and water. Flight is not an escape from the earth. It is an extension of it, a way to see farther, To survive longer? To find what is needed when the ground offers nothing? You sit on a driftwood log and watch. The light change. The day softens toward evening, and the wings above you turn from gold to shadow. Some return to the cliffs, riding the final thermals of the day. Others fold themselves into the branches of the forest, hidden until morning. One last pterosaur passes overhead, close enough that you can hear the faint rush of air over its membranes. It casts a shadow that stretches out before you, long, fleeting, and then gone. You think of how many times the earth has been crossed by such shadows, and how few will ever be known. Fossils will hold their shapes in stone, but the sky itself keeps no record. You run your fingers over the feather still in your hand. It is small, almost fragile, yet it holds the same sky as the giants. The same winds carry them all, from the smallest songbird to the largest pterosaur. In this moment, they are bound by the same invisible ocean, lifted by the same currents, shaped by the same need to move. And as night begins to rise, you notice something else. Far out at sea, dark shapes break the surface. They are not birds, and they do not fly, but they move with a grace that feels strangely familiar. You wonder what stories lie beneath the waves. What forms of life are mastering their own kind of flight, not through the air, but through water. Beneath the waves, the seas are ruled by reptiles whose shapes defy imagination. Long-necked plesiosaurs, sleek ichthyosaurs, and mosasaurs with jaws like living traps. You drift among schools of ammonites spiraling like ancient galaxies. The water is warm, heavy with life, and every shadow could hide a giant. The ocean's deep pulse beats in time with the earth itself. The shoreline lies quiet behind you, a thin line between two worlds. The feather in your hand still carries the memory of air, but now the wind is replaced by the slow, rhythmic pull of the tide. You wade forward, feeling the warm salt water swirl around your legs, and the sound of the land fades into a softer, heavier silence. One step more, and you are floating, weightless, suspended, as though the ocean has decided to carry you. Itself, beneath the surface, the world changes. Light scatters into columns, golden at first, then fading into shifting blues and greens. Tiny silver fish move as one, their bodies flashing like coins in the sun, each turn perfectly timed, each motion part of a greater pattern. They make space for you without fear, as if knowing you are here only to watch. The water grows deeper, and with it, the sense of time slows. Every movement feels deliberate, as though the ocean has no need to hurry. It has been here far longer than mountains, far longer than the forests you have walked through. And in this ancient space, creatures older than memory drift between shadows and light. From the dim blue, a shape appears. At first, it is only a suggestion, a curve, a gleam, a slow rhythm of motion. Then it draws closer, resolving into something vast and strange, a plesiosaur. Its neck stretches impossibly long, moving like a question asked to the sea itself. The body is broad and strong, powered by 4 great flippers that sweep through the water in wide, slow arcs. It glides past, the small head turning to regard you with dark, unblinking eyes, then continues into the haze where light thins and distance swallows detail. Around you, life blooms in every direction. A school of ammonites drifts by, their shells coiled in perfect spirals, ancient blueprints of geometry. They turn gently in the current, catching the light so that each whirl glows like a distant galaxy. You imagine them in another time, long before the first bird, when they ruled these waters in countless shapes and sizes. Here, they are reminders that beauty and survival often share the same design. The shadows shift again. This time, the movement is faster, sharper. From the edge of your vision, something sleek emerges, cutting through the water, with effortless speed. An ichthyosaur, shaped like a dolphin but belonging to another age, darts past. Its skin catches the sun in flashes of silver and slate, and it vanishes into the distance before you can take a full breath. You realize that here, speed is as vital as strength. The deeper you drift, the cooler the water becomes. Sunlight is thinner here, and the blues deepen into something closer to night. From below, an immense shadow rises. It moves with the heavy assurance of a creature that fears nothing. The head breaks into view first, long tapered jaws lined with conical teeth. A Mosaur dot glides closer, each motion unhurried but filled with power. Its body undulates, tail sweeping side to side in slow, controlled strokes. This is a hunter, but it does not rush. In the deep ocean, patience is often the sharpest weapon. Its eyes are golden, fixed on something beyond you, a shape in the gloom. In a sudden surge, it turns and vanishes into the darkness, leaving only the swirl of disturbed water dot above you. The surface ripples with faint light, but down here, shadows are more than the absence of sun. They are doors. From one such shadow, a shape rises, not a predator, but something massive and calm. A turtle, larger than any you've ever imagined, drifts upward. Its flippers move in slow, sweeping arcs, and algae traces patterns across its shell. It seems to carry a piece of the ocean floor with it, a traveling island in miniature. You follow it toward a ridge of coral, where colors explode in the dim light. Reds, purples, golds, each waving gently in the current. Small fish dart among the branches, and in the spaces between, crabs scuttle like tiny clockwork machines. The reef hums with quiet life, a city built over centuries from the skeletons of those who came before. Here, even the smallest creatures leave traces that last beyond their lifetimes. Every ridge of coral is a record, every shell a chapter, every grain of sand a page. The ocean, like the land, is a library of the Earth's memory. You drift onward, and the water deepens again. The sun's warmth is gone now, replaced by a cool pressure that settles on your skin. In the half-light, you notice flickers, tiny, points of green and blue. At first you think they are reflections, but they move with purpose. Bioluminescent plankton, carrying their own light, pulse gently as they drift. They turn the water into a slow-moving night sky, where each star is alive. From the darkness beyond, a distant rumble reaches you low, almost felt more than heard. It repeats, deep and resonant, and the water vibrates with its call. You cannot see its source, but you feel it. It is the voice of something vast, perhaps a creature searching for another across miles of water. Or perhaps it is simply the ocean itself, speaking in the language of pressure and wave. The sound fades, replaced by the soft rush of your own movement. You rise toward the light again, passing through layers of water that shift from navy to turquoise to gold. Each layer feels like another era, another chapter in the ocean's endless story. Near the surface, you encounter a final vision, a group of small marine reptiles, no larger than your arm, swimming in a coordinated spiral. They twist and turn as if bound by a single thought, their bodies flashing silver with every roll. It is both play and practice, a dance for survival, teaching the young the patterns that will one day save them. You break the surface at last. The air feels warm, almost strange after the cool depths, and the sky above is scattered with soft clouds. Behind you, the ocean stretches to the horizon, its surface hiding the vast, intricate world you have just left. It is easy to forget what lies beneath: the giants, the hunters, the spirals of life that turn unseen. The feather is still in your hand. You notice now how its fine structure resembles the delicate fronds of coral, how the curve of its vein mirrors the arc of a shell. Air and water, two realms, yet they shape life and echoes of the same patterns. You let the feather rest on the surface for a moment. It floats, rocking gently with the swell, as if deciding whether it belongs here or on the wind. The tide draws it slowly away, carrying it toward the open sea. You watch it drift until it is only a speck against the shimmer. The waves move in a slow heartbeat. You think of the creatures below, of the calls that carry for miles, of the patient hunters, and the sudden bursts of speed. Life here is as bound to rhythm as any song. The rise and fall of the tide, the migration of prey, the turning of the earth itself. Somewhere beyond the horizon, storms are brewing, winds gathering their strength. The air will change, and with it the ocean's surface will dance to a wilder tune. But for now, the sea is calm, and its monsters rest in the deep. The Cretaceous brings flowers, delicate yet unstoppable. Petals open under a golden sun, attracting insects whose wings hum softly over meadows that never knew such colors before. Dinosaurs wander through this new world, their diets shifting, their senses adjusting. You watch pollen drift on the breeze like golden dust, changing the face of the earth forever. You stand in a world transformed. The air is warmer here, softer, filled with scents that seem both ancient and startlingly new. You take in a slow breath, and the wind carries a sweetness you have never tasted before. Faint honey, green stems, and something else, something wild. Ahead, the ground rolls into open spaces, bathed in sunlight. And there, scattered like small bursts of stars against the green, you see them. Flowers. It is easy to forget now that the earth once knew no such thing. For most of its history, plants were simpler in their architecture: ferns, conifers. Cycads elegant in their own way, yet without the bright invitation of petals. But in the mid-Cretaceous, something begins to change. In the stillness of the soil, seeds of possibility awaken. And soon, the first true flowers unfurl, their shapes modest at first, their colors soft. A quiet revolution begins. You step closer. The petals tremble slightly in the breeze, not in fear, but as if signaling to the world, "Come closer." These flowers have evolved for attraction, not for you, but for others whose senses can read the signals more deeply. The air hums gently, and you realize the sound is not wind at all, but wings. An insect drifts past your cheek, small, iridescent, shimmering with metallic blues and greens. Its flight is deliberate, purposeful, following an invisible map of scent and color. It settles onto a bloom, folding its wings as its body dips into the heart of the flower. This is the bargain of this new world: nectar in exchange for pollen, carried to another waiting blossom. Plants and pollinators, strangers once, are now bound in a partnership that will change the earth. You begin to notice more of them. Bees in their earliest forms, beetles dusted gold, butterflies with wings patterned like sunsets. Each one moves with the same hidden urgency, following a rhythm that seems older than memory yet is, in truth, newly written. And around them, life begins to reorganize itself. A small dinosaur, feathered, light-footed, pauses among the stems. It lowers its head, sniffing at a cluster of flowers. Its eyes glimmer in the sunlight. It may not understand what has changed, but it feels the difference. These blooms carry seeds rich in energy, leaves with new textures, and fruits that will one day swell with sugars. Diets shift, senses sharpen. Evolution bends toward the floral. You sit in the grass, watching as pollen drifts into the air. Each grain is impossibly small, yet within it is a blueprint for life, a fragment of a greater story. They rise and fall with the wind, scattering across meadows, across rivers, across valleys. The earth's landscapes begin to change. Forests break into open plains. Shaded groves are scattered with light. For the first time, the land holds an abundance of color, shape, and scent designed not only to survive, but to entice. And yet, this beauty is not an accident of nature. It is the result of countless invisible trials. Each flower is a variation, an experiment. Some blooms brighter, others sweeter. Still others shaped to fit the curve of a particular insect's body. Those that succeed pass their design forward. Those that fail vanish quietly. Evolution, as always, is both artist and editor. The sun arcs slowly overhead, bathing the petals in gold. You notice how the flowers respond to its light, some opening wide in the morning, others closing it. Dusk as if drawing in breath. Light is their timekeeper, their energy source, their compass. In the absence of motion, they live lives of astonishing activity, reaching for the sun's favor. A gentle rustling draws your attention. From the tree line, a hadrosaur emerges. Tall, duck-billed, its skin patterned with muted stripes. It lowers its head to feed, tearing mouthfuls of vegetation that include the new blooms. Some seeds will survive the journey through its body, deposited far away in a pile of nutrient-rich soil. The dinosaurs, unknowingly, have become gardeners nearby. Smaller mammals scurry among the roots. They, too, find opportunity in this world. Of flowers, feasting on seeds, hiding in the tall grasses, their bodies carrying pollen from place to place. This is a time of partnerships, some deliberate, some accidental, all reshaping the living map of Earth. You close your eyes for a moment, listening. A Cretaceous is not silent. It is alive with the layered music of life, the rustle of leaves in the wind, the drone of insects, the distant calls of dinosaurs across the plain. Beneath it all is another sound, deep and unbroken, the pulse of change. The world is weaving a new pattern. Thread by golden thread dot as you walk, you find yourself in a meadow so wide it feels endless. The flowers here rise almost to your knees, their colors scattering in every direction. Pale yellows, deep purples, fiery reds. They sway in the breeze as though breathing together. You realize that, while each bloom is temporary, the flowering itself is eternal, renewed each season by the invisible work of seeds and roots. A dragonfly passes in front of you, its wings catching the light like stained glass. It hovers, turns, and vanishes into the shimmer of the air. You think about how such creatures were here long before flowers, how they adapted, shifting their place in this transformed web of life. Change does not erase what came before. It builds upon it, layer after patient layer. The day warms. Above you, the sky is a pure, unbroken blue. Clouds drift lazily, their shadows passing over the field like a slow tide. Somewhere beyond the horizon, oceans breathe, forests stretch, and mountains rise, all part of the same living earth. Now touched by the soft insistence of petals, you kneel to look closer at a single bloom. Its petals are thin as silk, their edges almost translucent. Within, the stamens stand like tiny sculptures, each tipped with pollen that glows faintly in the sunlight. You imagine the journey of a single grain, from here, carried by wind or wing, to another flower waiting silently for its arrival. This is not just reproduction. It is connection, an unbroken thread linking distant lives. The flowers are not merely ornaments to this world. They are engines of transformation. They draw energy from the sun, stored in seeds, pass it through the food web to insects, to birds, to dinosaurs, to mammals. Every petal is part of a chain of survival. And, in return, life moves their designs forward, shaping them into new forms, new colors, new possibilities. Even the air feels different here. It is richer, touched by the oxygen that plants release. Each breath you take is part of the quiet work of leaves and petals, sunlight turned into life. You cannot see this exchange, but you feel it, like the soft beat of a heart you didn't. No, you shared. The sun begins to dip, casting the meadow in long shadows. The flowers seem to hold the last light, glowing gently against the darkening grass. The hum of insects fades as they retreat to safe places for the night. Somewhere in the distance, a predator's call rises and falls, reminding you that beauty exists alongside danger in every age. You linger in the stillness, feeling the weight of this moment in Earth's story. The arrival of flowers may seem delicate, even fragile, but it is one of the most powerful transformations the planet has known. It will ripple forward through time, shaping ecosystems, guiding evolution, and eventually touching human lives in ways no creature here could ever imagine. And as the first stars appear above the horizon, you wonder what other revolutions wait, quietly in the shadows, ready to bloom when their time comes. Beneath the beauty, the world is shifting. Volcanic mountains exhale ash into the sky, their breaths slow but heavy. Seas rise and retreat, reshaping coasts in whispers and roars. Climates swing between heat and chill, a pendulum you can almost hear. The great beasts still walk in strength, but far beyond sight, something approaches. You stand at the edge of a Cretaceous forest, the air warm and heavy with the scent of resin and flowers. Sunlight filters through layers of fern, fronds, and conifer branches, painting the ground with shifting patterns. It is a beautiful world, rich in life. Yet there is something in the air, something you can't quite name. The earth feels restless dot in the far distance. Beyond the green sweep of valleys and rivers, mountains rise, not the quiet, worn-down kind, but jagged, sharp peaks, still young, still growing. Their slopes bleed with rivers of black stone that harden in strange, twisted shapes. These are volcanoes, and they do not speak in gentle tones. Their language is thunder. When the ground moves beneath your feet, it is not always sudden. Sometimes it shifts so slowly you can't feel it, continents drifting like silent rafts on the mantle's molten sea. But other times, the earth reminds you of its strength all at once. A deep shudder, a roar from beneath, and a column of ash that climbs toward the clouds. The ash is fine as dust, each grain sharp enough to catch in lungs and eyes. Yet it also feeds the soil when it falls, bringing minerals to the plants that will grow here long after this eruption cools. The land is in constant conversation with itself, destruction answering creation, creation answering destruction. You watch the sky change. At first, it was blue, cloudless, and calm. Then a shadow blooms from the mountain's crown, spreading outward like a black flower. The sun dims, the air cools. Light becomes strange. A bronze coppery haze settles over the world, and you feel as though you are standing in another time entirely. The seas respond to these changes too. The coastlines here are never still. Shorelines advance and retreat, sculpted by the slow pulse of sea levels that rise when ice is scarce and fall when cold claims the poles. Warm water carries life into new places. Coral reefs blooming far. From the equator, shallow lagoons cradling creatures that have never seen such habitats before. But shifts in climate also bring loss. When seas retreat, coral is left stranded, and entire ecosystems vanish into silence. You walk down to the water's edge. The tide is low, exposing long ribbons of kelp that twist and glisten. Tiny crabs scuttle in the wet sand, leaving delicate patterns behind them. Farther out, the silhouettes of marine reptiles glide through the shallows. Their presence is ancient, confident, as though they believe the ocean will always belong to them. Yet you know the world has never promised permanence to any of its creatures. The air grows heavy again, and you sense another eruption somewhere far to the south. This one is larger. It pours carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, tilting the climate ever so slightly toward warmth. Over decades and centuries, the shift will ripple through every forest, every river, every sea. Plant life will change, and with it, the animals who depend on it. In some places, drought will crack the soil. In others, rain will come so often. The ground will never truly dry. You walk among dinosaurs feeding in the late afternoon light. A herd of hadrosaurs moves through the undergrowth, stripping leaves with wide, grinding jaws. They look strong, untroubled. The distant rumble of the volcano doesn't reach them here, at least not yet. Above, a tyrannosaur stands at the tree line, motionless, watching, a shadow among shadows. Predators do not hurry, and yet even these great creatures, built to dominate their landscapes, are not immune to the planet's moods. Food chains are delicate, even in a world that feels endless. A small change in the plants, a drought, a cold spell, a new competitor, can ripple upward until it touches every beak, tooth, and claw. The Earth's rhythms are deep and slow, but they are never still. Continents shift. Ocean currents twist into new patterns. The air itself changes in composition. Each of these movements alters the stage upon which life performs its endless play. You pass a shallow lake or water lily bloom, their petals trembling in a faint breeze. The air smells faintly of sulfur. Beneath the still surface, layers of sediment quietly record the passing years. Pollen grains, volcanic ash, the bones of tiny fish. 1,000,000 years from now, someone could split this mud open and read it. Like a diary, they would see that this time was one of beauty, but also of instability. The forests seem untouched, but hidden within them are quiet shifts. New flowers compete with older plants, changing the diets of insects. Some insects thrive, others fade. And every small change echoes upward. Even the dinosaurs' migrations may be subtly altered. Following the food is the seasons and climates. Evolve. You pause in a meadow of cycads, listening. The wind carries more than just the sound of leaves. It carries distance. You imagine mountains far away, their slopes glowing red in the night, their breath drifting high into the stratosphere. You imagine the seas drawing back, revealing land bridges that creatures may cross without realizing they are stepping into the history of their species. The balance here is delicate, though it does not look fragile. The world has always shifted between states, always asking its inhabitants to adapt or vanish. Still, there is a difference now, one you can almost feel in your bones. Change is not just coming from within the planet. Something beyond the Earth stirs, something far from the pull of gravity here. You lift your gaze to the sky. It is calm for now. The clouds are thin, and the fading sun paints them in strokes of peach and gold. Somewhere above them, beyond the blue and into the black, a piece of rock is moving. It has been moving for a very long time, across the emptiness between worlds. It has no mind, no purpose, yet its path will bring it here. And so the earth continues to breathe, to shift, to carry on its conversations of fire, water, air, and stone, unaware, perhaps, that another kind of conversation is on its way. Wind changes, and you think you can hear it, the faint, cold sound of something falling. In a single day, the age of dinosaurs ends. A blinding light blooms in the sky, hotter than 1,000 suns. The earth shakes, forests ignite, and a wave of darkness begins to spread. You stand in stillness as ash falls like snow, knowing that nothing will ever be the same. The world enters a long, deep night. You wake to stillness. The air feels heavy, as if the world is holding its breath. High above, the morning sky is painted in soft pastels, pale golds, gentle blues, yet something in the light feels wrong, sharp at the edges, almost brittle. You take a breath, and it tastes faintly of metal. Somewhere far beyond sight, past clouds and wind, past the reach of birds, An object races toward Earth. It has been falling for millions of years. A wanderer from the dark reaches of space. Its path is silent. Its purpose is indifferent. Yet here it comes, faster than thought, carrying the weight of an ending. You cannot see it yet, but you can feel it. A subtle tremor beneath your feet. A thin tension in the air. Even the animals seem to know. A flock of small, feathered dinosaurs bursts from the trees, their wings catching the light for one brief, glittering moment before vanishing into the canopy. Then, it happens. The horizon blooms. A light unlike any you have ever known erupts in the sky. It is not the light of dawn or fire, not lightning or the sun. It is pure, blinding energy, hotter than the heart of a star. For an instant, shadows vanish. The very air turns white. Close your eyes, but the brightness pushes through your eyelids, painting the inside of your mind with searing color. The sound follows a heartbeat later, a roar that is not just heard, but felt. It rushes through the ground, up your bones, deep into your chest. The earth groans as if struck by a giant's hammer. The object, a rock 6 miles wide, has struck the shallow sea near the edge of what will one day be called Mexico. At the moment of impact, mountains of water explode into the air. Rock vaporizes, the ocean boils, and shockwaves race outward faster than storms. The air rushes past you in a single, shuddering breath, a wind so strong it bends trees like grass and strips leaves from branches. Forests bow before it. Lakes ripple and spill over their banks. But the true destruction is yet to come. High above, a column of fire climbs into the sky. Chunks of molten rock, some the size of houses, some no larger than pebbles, rain down across continents. They glow like falling stars, but when they land, the world ignites. Grasslands erupt into flame. Dry leaves burst with a hiss. Even wet marshes smolder. Animals flee in every direction. You see a herd of ceratopsians thundering through the smoke, their frills catching the flicker of firelight. Winged reptiles wheel overhead, seeking safety they will not find. The smell of burning resin, pine, and flesh mixes in the air. And still, it gets worse. From the crater, an invisible wave spreads upward, not of water, but of heat. It sweeps across the globe, setting fires thousands of miles away. The seas churn with sudden storms. Ash swirls through the wind like black snow. Hours pass, and the sky begins to darken. Not the gentle dimming of twilight, but a heavy, unnatural shadow. The sun fades to a dim, coppery disk. Ash and soot rise higher and higher, building a ceiling across the world. The fires continue to burn below, feeding the darkness above. By the second day, the stars are gone. Even the moon is lost. The world is lit only by the dull, flickering glow of distant blazes. The temperature drops. Not much at first, just a coolness that makes you wrap your arms around yourself, but it will keep falling. The sunlight, once warm and golden, is now weak and cold. Plants cannot grow in this dimness. Leaves wilt. Flowers collapse. Grasses turn brittle. Without plants, the plant-eaters starve. Without them, the hunters follow. You walk along a riverbank and see the silence spreading. No bird calls, no insect hum. The only sound is the trickle of water over stones. The air smells of damp earth and decay. Bones lie half buried in the mud, picked clean by creatures that themselves are now gone. Weeks turn into months. The fires die out, leaving blackened forests behind. The ash in the air begins to settle, but it still veils the sun. The oceans cool. The wind carries a bite of winter, even to lands that once knew only warmth. And yet, in the midst of all this, there are survivors. Small mammals scurry in the leaf litter, feeding on seeds hidden underground. Insects chew through rotting wood. In dark ponds, Frogs remain still beneath the ice. Crocodiles bask on riverbanks when the rare sun breaks through. Life is thin, but it endures. One day, perhaps a year after the sky fell, you notice the first. Green, a stubborn fern, curling upward through the ash. Its leaves are small, but their color is startling. Bright against the gray. More follow. Moss spreads across blackened trunks. Grasses return. The air warms, little by little. Sunlight, pale and weak, grows stronger. Clouds drift in white rather than black. But the great age you once knew is gone. The towering dinosaurs, the pterosaurs that owned the skies, the great marine. Reptiles of the deep, they are nowhere to be found. Their bones rest beneath layers of stone and memory. You close your eyes and remember their shapes, their sounds, the way the ground shook beneath their steps. You think of the flowers that once opened each morning, of the meadows humming with insects, of the forests alive with color. And you wonder at how quickly it all was taken. The earth has turned a page. It will heal, but it will not return to what it was. New creatures will rise. New forests will grow. But this chapter, the age of dinosaurs, has ended, and somewhere deep in your heart, you know that endings are never truly ends, only beginnings in disguise. When the sun returns, it shines on a changed earth. The great dinosaurs are gone, but their small, feathered kin survive. Mammals emerge from the shadows, carrying the seeds of a new era in their tiny paws. You walk through the quiet, sensing both loss and possibility. Life, though wounded, begins again. The silence is the first thing you notice. Not the sharp silence of a cold winter morning, but a deep, almost endless quiet, the kind that seems to have seeped into the very bones of the earth. You breathe it in, and it tastes of ash, of dust, of things that once lived and will never return. The land stretches before you in shades of gray and brown. Forests that once sang with the voices of countless creatures now stand like hollow ghosts, their trunks blackened, their leaves long gone. The air is thinner, still holding the memory of smoke. Sunlight falls weakly, its golden warmth diluted by a haze that drifts high in the sky, the lingering breath of a catastrophe. And yet you listen. Beneath that stillness, you hear something faint. A rustle in the underbrush, a tremor of tiny feet across dry soil. The survivors are stirring. From the shelter of a fallen log, a small bright eye peers out. A mammal, soft-furred, no larger. Then your hand steps into the pale light. Its whiskers twitch as it samples the air, cautious but alive. For millions of years, its kind had lived in the shadow of giants, unseen, unheard, surviving by night and in secret tunnels. Now, with the giants gone, the shadows feel different, lighter, full of possibility. You walk slowly, your footsteps muted by the ash. Here and there, you see the signs of resilience. Green shoots pushing up through the dust, their tips bending toward the sun. Tiny flowers, fragile but insistent, blooming as if the world had not just ended. The air carries the faint scent of growth, a whisper that life is already rewriting the story. Far above, a shape moves across the sky. For a heartbeat, you think of the great winged reptiles that once ruled these heights. But this is different. Smaller. Feathers catch the light, shimmering faintly as the bird, a descendant of dinosaurs, glides effortlessly between the still air and the scattered clouds. Its cry is thin but clear, slicing through the hush like a needle through cloth. A reminder that not everything has vanished. You pause near the bank of a shallow stream. The water runs murky but steady, carrying with it the seeds of plants, the eggs of insects, the possibility of fish. A dragonfly hovers above the surface, its wings trembling with iridescent light. It is older than the dinosaurs, older than flowers, older than the catastrophe itself. It has seen extinctions before, and it will see them again. The mammals are bolder now. In the distance, a group of shrew-like creatures scurry between fallen branches, foraging among the moss and lichen. Their small bodies vanish and reappear in bursts of movement, darting, stopping, sniffing, each one a tiny gamble for survival. Their sharp teeth can cut through seeds, insects, even the occasional lizard. They are not powerful, but they are adaptable. And adaptability is what the new world demands. You kneel to touch the soil. It crumbles in your hand, dry on the surface, but holding a deeper dampness within. Beneath that darkness, roots are already spreading, threading themselves like patient fingers into the earth. You think of the seeds that must have waited, hidden in the ground, protected by their hard shells, for the moment when the fire and ice of disaster would pass. Now their time has come as days turn into seasons. You watch the land change. Where once there were open stretches of ash and stone, now there are patches of green. Moss spreads first, softening the edges of the devastation. Then ferns, ancient and familiar, unrolling their fronds as if remembering an old song. Shrubs and small trees follow, bringing shade, shelter, and food. With plants come insects. With insects come more birds. With birds come predators. The chain begins again, and with every passing season, the mammals grow bolder. Some stay small, content to live as they always have, hidden and quick. Others experiment, stretching their limbs longer, climbing trees, swimming in streams. A few begin to walk more upright, their forelimbs freer to grasp and hold. It is slow, so slow you would almost miss it if you were not watching closely. But you see the future in their eyes, a spark of curiosity that is different from instinct, a hint of the restless intelligence to come. The great dinosaurs are gone, but they are not truly gone. They live on in the beating hearts of the birds that take to the skies each morning, in the curve of a claw, in a tilt of a beak. They live on in the shapes of leaves they once browsed, in the predator's patience passed to new hunters. And they live on in the spaces they left behind, spaces now filled with new kinds of life. You walk through a meadow where wildflowers have begun to paint the land with color. Bees, small, determined, wearing coats of golden dust, hum between blooms. The air smells sweet, carrying the promise of fruit, of nectar, of seeds that will feed yet more life. Once, these meadows would have trembled under the footsteps of a giant. Now they sway in the gentler movements of wind and wing. A herd of early ungulates, hoofed mammals, grazes nearby. Their legs are longer than those of their ancestors, their bodies stronger, built for running. You watch a young one leap and play, its hooves kicking up small clouds of pollen and dust. In its movement, there is no memory of catastrophe, only the joy of being alive. Night falls, and the silence changes. It is no longer heavy and empty, but layered with sound. The chirp of insects, the soft call of a night bird, the rustle of something small moving through the grass. The stars above are sharp and clear, unblurred by smoke, and the Milky Way stretches across the sky like the ghost of an ancient river. You lie back on the cool ground, listening. The earth is still healing, but the rhythm of life has returned. It beats softly, like a heart still mending. It's strong enough to keep going. You think of how many times this has happened, how many times life has been broken and rebuilt, how many times the world has been remade from what remained. Somewhere in the dark, a small mammal curls into its burrow. Its young sleep beside it, tiny and blind, but warm with life. They will grow, and their children will grow, and the line will stretch forward through time in ways you cannot yet see. From them will come shapes and minds the world has never known, some fleeting, others enduring for millions of years. The night deepens and the air cools. You close your eyes, feeling the slow pulse of the planet beneath you. The age of dinosaurs has ended, but the age of something new has just begun. In the long story of the Earth, every ending is also an opening, every silence an invitation. And far ahead, in the vast distance of time, another kind of creature will stand where you stand. Now, looking back, wondering how it all began? Millions of years later, their bones lie sleeping beneath rock and riverbeds. You kneel to brush away dust from a fossil, feeling the deep hum of time. The shapes you uncover are stories, not just of death, but of living worlds. Every fossil is a bridge connecting your hands to a creature that once walked under alien skies. You walk slowly, the air warm with the scent of sun-baked stone. Each step feels heavier here, as though the ground remembers. It remembers the weight of creatures long gone, the press of clawed feet, the ripple of tails dragging through mud, the pounding stride of giants whose shadows never fall here anymore. Beneath the surface, deep in layers of ancient earth, their bones rest, not in neat skeletons like in a museum, but scattered, hidden, transformed. They have lain here for millions of years, turning from bone to stone, molecule by molecule, the patient work of time and pressure. You kneel beside a pale shape jutting from a low cliff face. It is not yet obvious to an untrained eye, just a curve of stone, almost like driftwood. But you feel the difference. You trace the edges gently, brushing away loose sand. It resists you, stubborn, as though reminding you that this story is not yours alone. The sun shifts, and its light catches the smoothness of the fossil. You can almost imagine the flesh over it, warm and alive, muscles flexing as it moved across a world that no human would ever see. The rivers then were different. The sky was different. Even the air itself was thicker, carrying more of the gases that fed immense forests and colossal lungs. This bone, this stone, is not just an artifact. It is a fragment of a lost reality. You close your eyes and let your mind sink backward. The hum of insects fades. The sound of the wind changes, becoming heavier, filled with distant, low calls. The world you see is warm and green. Trees arch high above you, their leaves broad and dripping with moisture. A herd of dinosaurs moves across the clearing. Their feet press into mud so wet that each step leaves behind a pool of water. A juvenile stops, dipping its head to drink. It lifts it again quickly, startled by the shadow of a predator slipping through the ferns. You breathe in, and even the air tastes ancient. It is richer, almost sweet. Your chest rises with it, and you understand how creatures could grow so large. In such a world, this is the life your fossil once held, a being that breathed, fed, grew, and one day fell still. The vision fades, and you open your eyes. The stone is still in your hand. It is cool, even under the hot sun. As if it remembers a deeper cold from far underground. You begin to dig slowly, carefully. A tool in your hand chips away the surrounding rock, not too fast, never too forceful. A fossil is not a treasure to be snatched from the earth. It is a guest to be welcomed from its long sleep. You work until the shape becomes clearer, the curve of a rib, the point of a joint. You will not finish today. Fossils are patient, and they require your patience in return. As the hours pass, your thoughts drift to the story of how bones become stone. It begins in the quiet after death. A body lies where it falls, perhaps in a river, perhaps in a forest. Scavengers come, stripping away what they can. The rest sinks into the earth, buried by silt or sand. Over time, minerals and water seep into the bone, replacing its structure with stone while keeping its shape. It is not a quick process. It takes longer than the rise and fall of continents, longer than the time it took for those dinosaurs to evolve in the first place. The fossil you touch might have waited under mountains that no longer exist. It might have slept beneath oceans that later became deserts. And now it lies here, in your hands, in an age it could never have imagined. You think about the people who first began to notice such things. Ancient humans found strange stones in cliffsides and riverbeds. They did not know about dinosaurs. They imagined instead the bones of giants, dragons, or gods. They told stories, trying to fit these shapes into the world they knew. And in a way, they were right. These were giants, though of a different kind. The truth, when it came, did not erase the wonder. It deepened it. You brush more dust from the fossil, and a thought comes to you. Every fossil is both an ending and a beginning. It marks the end of a life, but also the start of a record, a message that can survive longer than mountains. It is the Earth's way of remembering Dot in that way. The ground beneath you is not just dirt and stone. It is a library. Layer upon layer, it holds the chapters of life's story. Some chapters are long, filled with thriving species and stable climates. Others are short, cut off suddenly by disaster. And scattered throughout are the bookmarks, fossils like this one, reminding you where the story paused and where it turned toward something new. You step back, resting your tools. The light is softer now, evening beginning to color the sky. In the quiet, you hear the slow ticking of time. Not the seconds on a clock, but the deeper rhythm of geology, the way mountains rise, seas drain, forests spread and vanish. The fossil is still in the rock, still part of its ancient bed. Tomorrow you will return, and the day after that, until it is ready to leave. You imagine what will happen next. In a lab, careful hands will clean it fully, preserving every ridge and groove. Scientists will study its shape, compare it to others, reconstruct its place in the family of life. Perhaps it will be displayed in a museum where children will press their faces to the glass, imagining the creature alive again. And perhaps one of them, years later, will come here too, searching for another piece of the past. You rise, brushing the dust from your knees. The sun is low now, and the air cools quickly. You walk back toward camp, the earth beneath your feet solid, but somehow alive with memory. Every step feels connected to something older and deeper than yourself. You are walking across the graves of worlds. As you reach the ridge, you turn for one last look at the place where the fossil lies. It is still there, half hidden, its story paused. The sky above it glows faintly, and for a moment you imagine the stars shifting slow as stone, bright as the spark of curiosity. Somewhere in the distance, wind moves through a dry riverbed, sounding almost like footsteps. You listen, wondering how many stories remain buried, waiting for hands to uncover them. And you wonder too, what layers the future will lay down over yours. Even now, in birdsong, in the curve of a claw, in the beating of your own heart, the dinosaurs live on. Time does not erase. It transforms. You listen for the echoes of their footsteps in the rustle of leaves, knowing the past is never truly gone. The night deepens, and the earth turns, carrying both you and their story into the quiet infinity of tomorrow. You walk beneath a sky that feels both ancient and new. A thin veil of clouds drifts slowly, like the breath of something larger than you can name. The air is cool, heavy with the scent of damp earth and pine needles crushed underfoot. Your steps are soft, swallowed by moss. The forest around you alive, with sounds that are not quite silent. An owl's distant caw, the rhythmic hum of night insects, the faint ruffle of leaves stirred by the wind. It is dark, but not entirely. The moon peers through the shifting clouds, its silver light catching on the edges of fern fronds and the slick surface of a fallen branch. Every glimmer feels deliberate, as if the forest is revealing small truths one at a time. You pause, The stillness here feels layered, as though the present rests lightly on the bones of the past. It comes to you not as a picture, but as a sensation, a quiet pulse running through the ground, a low vibration threading its way up through your feet, your legs, your chest. You close your eyes and breathe it in. Somewhere far above, a bird glides between the treetops. You catch only the sound of its wings, the faint whoosh of air parted by feather and bone. Those wings carry the same architecture that once belonged to reptilian giants who ruled skies unrecognizable to ours. The shape of its flight is not an imitation, but an inheritance. In the curve of that feathered limb, there is a through line of survival and transformation. You open your eyes again. The path bends and narrows, guiding you deeper into the trees. A patch of pale stone catches the moonlight at an odd angle. You kneel, brushing away a scattering of leaf litter, and find them, three-toed impressions pressed into the rock, edges softened by time, fossilized footsteps, the preserved gesture of a creature that walked this very ground millions of years. Before you, you trace them with your fingertips, the stone cool and unyielding beneath your touch. Time does not erase. It transforms. These tracks are no longer footprints, yet they still speak. They tell of weight and movement, of a life lived in another age. You find yourself imagining it, the sway of its tail, the press of each step into soft mud, the slow lifting of its head to taste the air. A rustle at the edge of the clearing draws your attention. In the shadows, a small mammal scurries, pausing only to sniff at the air before vanishing into the underbrush. Its body is quick, its survival instinct, sharper than sight. You know, without thinking, that its ancestors were among the tiny, furred survivors of the Great Extinction. In its eyes, brief, glinting, there is a thread that runs forward through time, leading directly to the humans who now walk this earth. You step onward, feeling each layer of time beneath your feet. The earth here has been rewritten again, and again, by ice and flood, by root and fire, by the steady erosion of wind. And yet, every transformation leaves a trace, like notes from a song that never truly stops. The trees around you grow denser. Some towers are high enough that their tops vanish into darkness. Their bark is ridged and furrowed, patterns that echo the scales of long-gone creatures. Between their roots, ferns unfurl, green spirals that have been part of Earth's design since before flowers bloomed. You begin to notice more. The crook of a branch, shaped like the curve of a talon. The ripple of a shadow, it feels like the flick of a tail. These are not ghosts in the frightening sense. They are echoes, quiet but insistent. The past is not behind you. It is all around, woven into the fabric of now. A breath of wind brushes past your face, carrying with it the faint call of a night bird. The sound is sharp, sudden, then gone. A single note dropped into the stillness. Somewhere in its DNA lies the blueprint of dinosaurs. The hollow bones, the wishbone, the way its lungs draw air in a continuous loop, more efficient than ours. These are ancient gifts, carried forward through adaptation, refined by time, but never lost. You think about survival, not as a single event, but as a long, unbroken chain. One life leading to another. One heartbeat echoing the rhythm of countless others before it. Your own chest rises and falls, a movement shared by reptiles and mammals alike. The forest floor dips and opens into a small glade. Here, moonlight pools, like water, silvering the grass and the stones. You sink down, letting the cool dampness seep into your palms. Above you, the stars begin to sharpen against the darkening sky, their light traveling millions of years to reach you. Some of those photons began their journey before the dinosaurs took their final breath. The scale of it is dizzying, the way time folds in on itself, the way the past is not gone, but carried forward in quiet, unassuming ways. You picture the earth spinning, continents drifting, oceans rising and falling. You see lush forests where deserts now lie, and snowfields where jungles once thrived. Through it all, life reshapes itself, borrowing from what came before. You lean back and close your eyes. Behind your lids, the darkness feels endless, yet threaded through with movement, the slow drift of eras passing. You imagine the thunder of footsteps shaking the ground, the shadow of a long neck sweeping overhead, the hiss of breath from a beaked mouth. Then, as if in the same breath, those shapes dissolve into the flutter of wings, the chirp of a songbird, the quick dash of a lizard across a sunlit rock. Somewhere in the distance, the wind shifts, carrying the scent of rain. It is a smell older than language, older than the trees around you, older even than the creatures you've been thinking of tonight. Rain has been falling on this planet for billions of years, touching every surface, every life. Perhaps the same drop of water has passed through the bodies of dinosaurs, birds, and now you. You open your eyes. The forest feels different now, not changed exactly, but seen more fully. The shapes and sounds are layered, as if each moment contains all that came before it. You are not merely standing in this place. You are standing in every version of it that has ever been. Your gaze drifts upward again to the stars. Some flare briefly, meteors skimming the edge of the atmosphere, while others burn with steady light. You think of how many creatures, human and otherwise, have tilted their heads to this same sky. How many saw in those stars the promise of connection, of continuity? The air grows cooler. Night deepens. You rise, brushing the damp from your hands, and take one last look at the fossilized prints nearby. They are still, silent, but their silence is not empty. It holds the weight of an entire world that once was, a reminder that nothing truly vanishes. As you turn back toward the path, the forest closes gently around you. Each step feels deliberate, each breath shared with the living and the gone. The echoes of the past follow you, not as footsteps behind, but as a steady heartbeat beside your own. And as the path bends out of sight, you feel a new question, stirring, one that reaches beyond dinosaurs, beyond even Earth itself. And so, the footsteps fade. The great shadows that once stretched across the earth grow still, their echoes resting in stone. Yet, they are not truly gone. In the curve of a bird's wing, in the rhythm of your own heartbeat, in the quiet patience of the earth itself, they live on. Tonight, we walk together through an ancient world. We felt the ground tremble under the weight of the dinosaurs. And we've seen how, even after silence, life finds a way to rise again. If you felt the same wonder I have tonight, I'd be grateful if you'd let me know. You can like this video to help it reach other curious hearts. You can share it with someone who dreams of the past as deeply as you do. You can leave a comment telling me your favorite moment, or which ancient creature you'd meet if time were no barrier. And if you subscribe, you'll be here next time, when we step quietly into another story, perhaps one even older, even stranger. For now, close your eyes. Let the ancient earth fade into night, and carry with you the truth that nothing is ever truly lost.